Hope your Christmas was awesome. Now, time to talk about the Yankees and the Pirates and playing GM. Today is Friday, December 27th. I'm Jack. He's Peter. This is the Just Baseball Show. As always, it is presented by BetMGM. If you like the podcast, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple Pods. Do people use Stitcher?
I don't know. I listen to all of my podcasts on Spotify.
Me too.
Um, I haven't used a bunch else, but I know that they're all out there. So if they are, and you're listening on, a different kind of platform, five
Amazon
stars.
Music. Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever it is.
maybe
Five
it's
stars.
maybe it's a 10-star review over there. I don't know, but just the max amount of stars you can give us is the most appreciative over here.
Yeah, I know some like there are some rankings that max out at 4 stars. There are some that go to I've never seen 10. Like 5 is the typical standard star rating. But also be sure to follow us wherever you social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that jazz, and then be sure to subscribe on YouTube as well. Again, today we're talking Pirates and Yankees. We're playing GM for both. Peter, how was your Christmas?
Christmas was good. I've been traveling a bunch. I was at my girlfriend's mom's side in Utica. Spent some good time over there. Seven fishes. Never had that
Hmm.
classic Italian dinner on Christmas. Legendary. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know why. It's an Italian thing. It should be an everyone thing.
yeah.
Electric. It's arguably better than Thanksgiving type food. That's how good it
Oh yeah.
was. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're that's a whole can of worms that we don't need to unpack right now, but like I'm kind of anti-Thanksgiving food, but seven fishes is something that should replace Thanksgiving.
See, I'm pro Thanksgiving food. I cooked my first Thanksgiving this year, but seven fishes, upper echelon of meals. And then now I'm in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Like you go out of the tunnel and you see the night lights, and you got the river going across, the nice bridges. I like Pittsburgh. It's a nice
The
place. So I'm having a good
confluence.
time.
It's the confluence of the three rivers. It's the Allegheny, the
Hmm.
Monongahela, and the Ohio. Is that right?
Maybe you
I don't
know
know.
more than me, but
Go
the
ask Amaris.
the only depressing part about Pittsburgh is that it's no longer Heinz Field. It's a Grazier,
Acrisure.
Acrisure, some insurance company.
Yeah, Bain didn't blow up Acrisure Stadium. Bain blew up Heinz Field.
Exactly. So, but overall, Christmas has been good. Hopefully, everybody's Christmas has been great as well. What about you?
It was good. I always do a movie on Christmas, and this was one of the better theater experiences I've ever had. I saw Dune Part 2 in 70 millimeter IMAX. That's probably the best theater experience I'll ever have. I didn't see Interstellar come out again on IMAX, but I saw Nosferatu on Christmas Day.
Hmm.
And that, like, run, don't walk to the theater to go see that. Eggers is a crazy mind, and gothic horror is back. Johnny Depp's kid is in it. Lily Rose Depp is the lead actress. She is terrifying. Very good.
Quick 15 to 20-second synopsis. What is it? What is Nosferatu?
Nosferatu is one of the more famous vampire stories ever. And you
Mm.
may know it from SpongeBob. He was the one flickering the lights in the hash slinging slasher episode. He's the vampire at the end. It was a German silent film in the 1920s, and it's a play on Dracula. But it's a remake from Robert Eggers, who is a twisted, beautiful mind of a director. And it is this weird, screwed up love story, but just really horror
Mm.
about a vampire in Transylvania that inhabits this German town. So I would go check it out. And Bill Skarsgård is the monster. Don't spoil the voice for yourself. If you see a clip on Twitter or anything where it's like Nosferatu voice, don't do that because it jumps on you and it sends a shiver down your spine when you actually see the movie. So if you are a person that can do horror, I walked out of that and I was like, I didn't necessarily say it was the greatest movie I ever saw, but I was speechless. I don't know how to comprehend this movie. So good theater experience. I would go do that.
And no free ads either. That wasn't an ad. That's genuine right there. So I'd
That's
be excited
genuine.
too. I'm gonna
Go
go
see
see it now. You fired
Nosferatu.
me up. You fired me
Right?
up.
Do you want to talk about the Pirates or the Yankees first?
Let's do Pirates, and then we'll swing last with the Yankees.
Okay. So the Pittsburgh Pirates, it was a weird deal in 2024, man. They obviously missed the postseason. They're obviously near the bottom of the National League Central. It was the offense that did them in. They were, what, 26th in baseball in team OPS? Yeah, 672 team OPS was 26th in all of Major League Baseball. Starter ERA was good because they got an incredible first half of the season from Jared Jones. They got another all-star caliber first half of the season from Mitch Keller, and then Paul Skeens is arguably the best pitcher on the planet. But they finished middle of the pack in starter ERA, and the bullpen ERA was a little funky because David Bednar was so bad at points. The Pirates were 26th in bullpen ERA at 4.49. So there were a couple clear-cut deficiencies. Let it be known, the Pirates fired their hitting coach in Andy Haynes. They hired Matt Haig to be their hitting coach. They're trying that internally. They're trying that with the coaching staff. Okay, coaching staff can only get you so far. You need some talent offensively, and I feel like that's where we're going to focus. In terms of transactions so far, they lose Aroldis Chapman, Yasmani Grandal, Ryan Baraki, and Jalen Beeks, a deadline acquisition for Luis Peralta, who, by the way, looks like a good reliever in Colorado now. Pretty lopsided deal. They lose all those guys in free agency. They declined the club option on starter Marco Gonzalez. They non-tender Connor Joe. They also non-tender another deadline acquisition in Brian De La Cruz. They non-tender Hunter Stratton, but Stratton was hurt. He's probably going to miss the entirety of 25. They bring him back on a reworked minor league deal to rehab. They sign Andrew McCutchen and reliever Elvis Alvarado to one-year deals. Minor league deals for Tanner Rainey and Carson Fulmer to relief arms. They claim Tristan Gray off waivers from the A's. They also claim Trey Cabbage, but he was released to go pursue an opportunity in Japan. They go grab Emmanuel Valdez from the Red Sox for Joe Vogatsky, who was, I think, 10th or 11th round pick this past year. Really, like, I don't think he made an appearance with the Pirates organization. So have fun with that. And then the big move was Spencer Horwitz was acquired after Horwitz went from Toronto to Cleveland in the Andres Jimenez deal. Horwitz went from Cleveland to Pittsburgh for a trio of pitchers. Luis Ortiz, who was very good last year.
Yeah.
Josh Hartle, the Wake kid, who was a little disappointing in his draft year. And then Michael Kennedy, lower level guy that was slicing and dicing. And I think Cleveland is going to work wonders with Michael Kennedy. One more quick one. Peter Strzelecki, they purchased from Cleveland. Their final payroll in 2024, $87 million. Their 2025 estimation right now, $75.9 million. So they're down about 10, 11 million from where they were at the end of 24. How do we make them better without making them too expensive is the big question.
It's the big question. And I love playing general manager. I love this exercise doing in the offseason, going through all 30 teams. But for anybody coming in new, again, another reminder that, we're not playing MLB The Show.
Right.
And I love playing general manager, like I said, but I get frustrated when I look at teams building around a Paul Skeens. You got Jared Jones. You have a good pitching staff. You have the makings of what could be a good bullpen, and you have a couple of stars on offense. Let's add. Let's sign some free agents. Let's fill these holes. Let's trade prospects for big leaguers. Let's start to open the window here, Pittsburgh. But instead, we have to follow what we think management's going to do, what we think that this front office is going to do. We have to follow historical trends. And what are the historical trends with the Pittsburgh Pirates? They don't want to spend a singular dime. And really the only big news that has came out of Pittsburgh's camp, and who even knows, how legit this storyline is, but it was reported that they are willing to deal Jared Jones, right-handed pitcher, who came up and looked really, really good in the front half and then kind of tapered off a little bit. But we still understand the talent here. We still see 100 miles an hour at the top of the zone with the fastball and a great slider. Would they trade Mitch Keller? I could understand that. But again, they already traded Luis Ortiz. So how many arms are we trading out of here? And are we trading out of our big league talent at all? So it's tough. That's why before we press the record button, I said, Jack, the Pirates are really going to annoy me here. Because I see the vision. I would get excited, but we can't, right?
Yeah, I think if you have the right person in place, and I don't, think that's entirely shored up if Cherington is the right person or the wrong person. I know there's a lot of Pirates fans out there saying Cherington is the worst. Get him
How
out of
could
there.
it
That's
be
not
his
true.
fault? How could it be his fault? He's
It's
not
not.
given anything.
It's not. So I do think Ben Cherington has done a very good job, particularly with pitching development and pitching identification. Finding Jared Jones in the 2020 draft out of high school, finding a kid that was a four-star quarterback in Bubba Chandler and drafting him. I mean, Cherington's done a very good job
But
drafting pitchers.
to be fair, I totally agree with you on the pitching side, but did underslot for Henry Davis, and it hasn't exactly worked out. So he hasn't been
Yeah, but they used
perfect.
those savings to get Bubba.
True.
There's always a rebuttal here,
Yeah.
right? There's always going to
No,
be a
but
rebuttal.
I think the only reason I'm bringing that up is we agree with each other.
Yeah.
Ben Charrington is not as bad as Pittsburgh Pirates fans
No,
as he is.
no,
But has he been perfect? Also, no.
no. And this is, yeah, I think part of it is he is a victim of the situation. And this roster is constructed in a way that there's a ton of guys that I don't want to be mean and say quad A. There are a ton of guys that are going to bounce back and forth
Yeah.
between the big leagues and AAA. And I think they'd be doing that on pretty much every team in Major League Baseball. I don't think they have a bunch of firm AAA players in the big leagues like some organizations do. The White Sox have a bunch of AAA players playing Major League Baseball right now. But I don't think that, you take 80% of this roster, put them in the Dodgers situation, they're going to beat out bench bats. I think they are all bench bats for the Dodgers. They're all big leaguers that compared to, the White Sox and the bottom half of the Nats roster, that kind of thing.
So to put everything in perspective, give me a budget right now that we can work with.
Budget. So I think it's feasible to get back to that 87 number that they were at last year, maybe get to 90 and the low 90s. I don't think that they're getting to $100 million here. I think we can cap it at about 93.
So that leaves some nice free agents to sign, and which I'd assume we would go on the offensive side. So we
Sure.
probably have to look at the trade market. So let's run through the lineup. You run it down for me. Who are we aren't moving off them. These are our guys. And then where do you see the holes that potentially we could go make a trade or sign a free agent?
I think the untouchables right now are O'Neill Cruz,
Yep.
Brian Reynolds,
Yep.
Andrew McCutchen,
Yep.
and Spencer Horwitz. I think those
Okay.
are the untouchables in the lineup. And untouchable is obviously a relative term there. McCutchen is not an untouchable for
Yeah.
any other organization, but he's a Pirate.
And he's playing like he's their DH. They brought him back. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah. They just traded for Horwitz, and they love what Horwitz can do with how
And they
good he
should.
was in Toronto last year. They're not ever going to entertain that.
Obviously, I don't love giving up Luis Ortiz in that deal, but you gave up Luis Ortiz for a reason. I think Spencer Horowitz is a good bat to fill in here.
Yes. O'Neill Cruz, the center field thing, I am incredibly excited to see what this looks like.
Me too.
Full
I
time
think
this
he
year.
could, we say it every year, but I mean, he does have the potential to take a leap towards superstar.
Well, and we knew that he had clear-cut deficiencies at shortstop. He has a howitzer. Does he know where it's going? Not all the time. But in center field, he can rein it in a little bit more, and he doesn't need to be as quick trigger as he was at short. And what turns into something that makes your shoulders tense is now I'm excited to see this guy roam the outfield grass at PNC. And Reynolds is
He's your guy.
arguably the face of their franchise right now with Kutch. I mean, they signed him to the richest deal that they've ever given out. Brian Hayes is a tough one. I think he's immovable
I agree.
because he hasn't hit yet.
He's playing third base next year. We're not going to go add a third baseman. We're not going to go trade for a third baseman. We're rolling with Brian Hayes. I also think that we're rolling with Nick Gonzalez at second. I think he's done enough to earn that job at least right now.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is there's nobody on the free agent list that I'm saying, oh, yeah, that's an upgrade and cheap over Nick Gonzalez. And I also don't see a trade out there, right? With the Pirates, it just doesn't make sense to move off of a young guy who you did draft very high in the first round, like he is your guy. So I think we're rolling at Nick Gonzalez at second, and I think we're rolling with Joey Bart at catcher.
I think so. And I think the catching situation is the most fascinating that we have with Pittsburgh right now because it's Joey Bart, and you assume he's going to be the opening day and the primary catcher. Andy Rodriguez is going to build his way back from Tommy John surgery that shelved him for the entirety of 2024. I saw him rehab at the end of the year, and he looked really good. He tweaked something, and they just shut it down. They said, you know what? It's not worth it here. But Endy will be back at some point, and I would assume he takes over that backup catcher role. But on opening day, who's the other catcher on the roster? Is it Jason DeLay, who's not very good even in AAA? Is it Henry Davis, who hasn't proven he can hit yet in the big leagues? It's a weird situation. And you point out Nick Gonzalez, I'm totally with you. I think the two Knicks give a lot of Pirates fans excitement. Nick Gonzalez and Nick York, who was acquired at the deadline for Quinn
Yeah.
Priester. York proved enough to be an exciting piece moving into the 25 season. Everywhere else, I just kind of think it's a turnstile, and whoever plays best is going to play there. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is going to be the opening day and the nearly everyday shortstop because
Yeah.
they acquired him and they owe him a lot of money. But like, what if IKF sucks and Liover Peguero is awesome in AAA to begin the year? Does
Yeah.
Peggy play short? Does, Jack Sawinski or G1 Bay sneak their way back onto the roster? Is Joshua Palacios a bulk platoon guy in right? Billy Cook is another name that we haven't mentioned yet. I mean, we mentioned Emmanuel Valdez, but we haven't brought him up in the lineup construction. Like, there's just a lot of puzzle pieces here that all kind of look the same.
Yeah.
And it's like, what actually makes the picture as opposed to fitting but not making a pretty picture?
Yeah. The way I viewed it when I look at this team, I look at, all the positions that we went through on offense, and really the only area that I'm looking to add here, and it's not really an aggressive add. I have two different trade options. Is either I think right field, right? Richie Palacios is slated to be the opening day right fielder.
Joshua, not Richie.
Oh, they're
Richie's in
brothers.
Tampa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Joshua Palacios, he's 29 years old. He's not a part of the future. He's not a part of the present, I don't think either. I think right now he's just a stopgap there. And, it was floated. I remember we talked about earlier on in the season, potentially signing a Tyler O'Neill. Of course, now he's with Baltimore. A Max Kepler on a cheaper 1-year deal. Wait, he's with Philly. And I don't think it's the Jason Haywards of the world that we're bringing in. I don't think it's the Randall Grichiks of the world that we're bringing in. I think that we can make the Pirates better without breaking the bank in the farm system and go call the Diamondbacks or call the Twins and go ask for one of those outfielders.
Okay. So you're thinking the way I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I've got three trades that make this lineup a little bit better.
But
And I want to run. Yeah.
Real quick, do you agree that kind of the only position that we're going after right now is right field?
I think corner outfield is what we're
Yeah.
going after.
Okay.
And what stinks, but I get it, is the trade for Horwitz showed the Pirates' hand that Brian Reynolds is not playing first base. He may play it a little bit, but for the most part, he's going to be in left because Kutch
Yeah.
is going to be the DH. Reynolds, I was hoping he was going to be a first base DH type, but I understand you make a move for Horwitz if that opportunity presents itself and you suck it up with Reynolds defensively. It's not a fun watch defensively, but his bat is an all-star bat and you suck it up in left and you tell O'Neal Cruz to cover a lot of ground because he's 6'7", and he can. Like he frankly can. So you try that.
I wonder, because Horowitz has also played some second.
Yeah.
Against righties, could it be Reynolds at first, Horowitz at second?
I think there are too many second base options for Spencer Horwitz to be at second base.
I agree. I was just thinking Gonzalez and York, both righties.
Gonzalez, York, but those guys can't just be playing short platoon.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I'm just trying to make this team better.
I understand. For the sake of the exercise, before we make the lineup better, I do want to run through the starting pitching and the bullpen situation because I think both of those are actually pretty solid, if we're being honest. I think they could use one more reliever, but that's about it.
Agreed.
Paul Skeens, Mitch Keller, Jared Jones, Bailey Falter, Johan Oviedo coming off of Tommy John surgery. He had it in November of 23. He should be ready for opening day. He threw about 180 innings in 2023. So you think that guy can be a back-end workhorse. And then you have Bubba Chandler, who should be given every opportunity to make the team out of camp, followed by a Braxton Ashcraft. We'll see how healthy he is. A Mike Burrows. We'll see how good he looks a season removed from coming back from Tommy John surgery. That's the starting pitching stable. Thomas Harrington, by the way, is 2 months away. Spends 2-3 months in AAA. That's another top 100 prospect. The bullpen, whether you like it or not, David Bednar is a two-time All-Star that is from Pittsburgh. He's going to be the closer for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah.
Colin Holderman is a good reliever. Dennis
Yes.
Santana has proven to be a good reliever since coming over from the Yankees. Carmen Majinski's sweeper is disgusting. Kyle Nicholas is throwing 100 miles an hour. Then you've got Joey Wentz, Elvis Alvarado, who you just signed. Eddie Yean looked decent in the fall league, looked good in Double A last year. There's some reliever depth here. It's not a good bullpen, but it's not a clear cut sore spot, I don't think.
I think it's mediocre. I
I
think
think
it's
you
in
sign a,
it's going to be in the 18 to 22 range in terms of bullpens in Major League Baseball, I think.
and you can make it a little bit better. You
Yeah.
can upgrade and you can find a seventh inning guy on the free agent market. And I think that's where you can spend just a teensy bit of money. You bring somebody in on a 1 year, $5 or $6 million deal, and that's not going to kill you. Like, they brought Chapman in last year. You think Kimbrel is worth more than $6 million?
He seems to be every year.
Yeah. What kind of deal do you think AJ Minter is getting?
Well, we'll talk about that later.
Okay. Okay.
If yeah, we'll talk about that later. Yeah, I
Okay.
I, I think that the Pirates are going to be operating in the $1 to $3 million range for some of these relievers.
Yeah, and I
And
think
I
they
think they
grab
should
one or
get
two of
like
them.
I think they should get two of them. Yeah,
Okay.
and then we get a decent bullpen. We could talk about potentially trading from this rotation, but let's act on this offense now.
So I've got three trade proposals.
Okay.
Do you want me to go least sexy to most sexy? And most sexy is not sexy at all. It's just, there is a sexiest of ugly things.
I do want to hear your least sexy after you just teed it up like that, where most sexy isn't even that great. Like, what
Yeah.
could you have thought of in the least sexy category?
I want a time buying backup catcher for Andy Rodriguez. And there's a
Awesome.
guy I know, there's a guy in AAA that shouldn't be in AAA for a lot of MLB organizations.
Do you want
This guy
Alex
had
Jackson?
not Alex Jackson, Hunter Fiducia with the Dodgers. Fiducia is a 27-year-old that had an OPS in the mid 800s in Oklahoma City last year. Grab him for Sung Chae Chang or somebody like that. For your 18th best prospect, you get a backup catcher that's good enough to give Endy and Henry a run for their money when it comes to a big league roster spot.
Sure.
It's very
Will,
not sexy.
but I guess, in my opinion, I think you're trying to figure out who your catcher of the future is between
I think it's
ND,
Endy.
Henry Davis, and Joey Bart. I think that's just what you should be running out here. Like, I don't think you should spend a singular prospect or anything on even acquiring a catcher. I think
Okay,
the Pirates should just roll with what they got.
so you think Endy in AAA for a month, Jason delays
Yes.
Bart's backup, and then
Yes.
Endy is there as the catcher of the future.
And Henry Davis. Give him a couple more tries. I know. It's I know. I just think that's what they have to do. So yes, to that plan, while also giving Henry Davis some tries. And if he does nothing with his tries, you know.
Okay, so I think based on that rebuttal, we should shoot it down and not do it because you suck it up with delay as your backup, and then Endy's there.
Yes.
Okay, the second one, Johan Oviedo, trade from that starter depth,
Okay.
and G1 Bay, change of scenery, defensive versatility,
Cool.
to Baltimore for Ryan O'Hearn.
Okay.
O'Hearn can play a corner outfield.
Yes, he can.
Baltimore needs innings.
Yes, he can.
Oviedo, I know, had Tommy John surgery, but right before he went down, he gave you 180. He's a big bodied guy that
Yeah.
throws hard.
Yeah, 177 innings, pitched to like a 4.31, got hurt, but he was 25 when he did that. Like, that's an intriguing arm for Baltimore to get. I went a little bit higher with Baltimore
Okay.
in terms of maybe a Mitch Keller type talking about Heston Kjerstad type.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think we want to stay young here with Pittsburgh. And I think Ryan O'Hearn is a good player and a good fit for this year. But what is this year for Pittsburgh anyway?
Hmm.
So then, if we're not really doing it for this year, then let's trade Keller, who's probably among all of these pitchers
Yeah.
the least likely to be a part of the bigger future.
Yeah.
That's where I went there to get a Kjerstad, or we can go smaller, call the D-backs, call the Twins, go get a corner outfielder that way, and not trade from the starting pitching depth at all.
Okay. So I actually like trading from the starting pitching depth because you're going to need to
Yeah,
clear up a spot for Bubba anyways.
yeah,
And I want to go back to that report, which came out on Monday of the winter meetings. And I saw it became a bit more concrete last week, I want to say. The Pirates and the Red Sox discussed a Jared Jones trade. That happened early in the week during the winter meetings. And that is where that came from. They are not still actively shopping Mitch Keller or Jared Jones. The
Yeah.
price would have to be astronomical to move Jared Jones, and the price would need to be steep to move a Mitch Keller. But if Heston Kjerstad is the primary piece, I think that's a pretty steep price
Yeah.
for Mitch Keller. I think the Orioles absolutely entertain that, especially given what 4 more years of control of Keller, if I'm not mistaken. And
Let's
you get a guy that is going to give you 170 to 180 innings every single year. It wasn't good in the second half in each of the last 2 seasons, but it's innings. And at the end of the year, it's going to be a low fours.
Yeah, Mitch Keller's getting paid 15 million this year, 16 million in 26, 18 million in 27, 20 million in 32. So, if you're the Orioles, you're kind of signing him to like a 4-year $70 million deal, right? I'm seeing contract terms here, 5 years, 77. That's what he signed. You're getting 4 years of that, then he's a free agent. I mean, plenty of years of control, not that expensive for a guy who's, again, is going to eat a ton of innings and pitch to a low fours. Who knows? Maybe he goes to you. You get a little bit more out of him in more of a playoff race in the second half, right? You could look at a Mitch Keller and say, or at least dream on this. All right, he's had a couple of great first halves, and then the Pirates have kind of teetered out of contention, and his numbers have kind of gone with that. Is that a he's kind of checking out if his team is not really in there, but with us, he won't? Is that just a Mitch Keller thing that we have to notice? I don't know.
Yeah.
But what
Four
I
for
do know is that
71.
when you look at the entire season, it's going to be very solid for a guy in Heston Kjerstad who just has no lane with you. I
Yeah.
just don't know where he's going to play. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is steep, but it's 4 years of control from ages 28 to 32, right in the middle of his prime.
Yeah. And I think you make that bet that it's not him getting tired,
Yes.
it's him maybe losing the edge once the
Yes.
Pirates are out of contention. It's 4 for 71 for Keller, which feels steep, which is probably why the price is Kjerstad and Kjerstad alone. You don't need to add another prospect.
But here's the thing: if Mitch Keller was a free agent this year, what would he get? Because we
Four
see,
for 71. It's market value.
yeah, that's probably what he'd get anyway. So
I view this as trading for Jamison Tyone right before he signed that deal.
hmm.
I think Keller and Tyone are very, very similar.
And if you're an Orioles fan, I mean, look at all the guys who have been traded away from Pittsburgh. To be fair to Pittsburgh, when it comes to pitchers, right? When they've
Yeah.
left,
To be unfair to
to
Pittsburgh.
be unfair to Pittsburgh. I mean, they've all done pretty well. So if I'm an Orioles fan, I think I'm pressing submit on that deal.
Yeah.
Now, Mike Elias,
He might not.
he
But
definitely
where
won't.
I'm with you, where's Kjerstad going to play? So I think option A is Keller for Kjerstad. Option B is Oviedo and Bay for O'Hearn.
Yeah.
And you figure out a corner outfield spot.
I guess I'm just out on making trades like that for Pittsburgh. I don't care about just, yes, it will make them better this year, but not that much better. And then for what?
Yeah,
Like,
but I think a
that's
lot
what
of
I
it,
feel about the IKF deals at the
yeah,
deadline, the Brian De La Cruz. Like, what are we doing?
they're,
We're,
they're trying to they're trying to soft go for it.
yeah, which I think is stupid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's dumb. Like,
I have no rebuttal.
I think that's a bad way to go about it. So a trade for Ryan O'Hearn goes against everything I believe in here with the Pirates.
Yeah,
Even though of course it makes them better this year and the Orioles would probably do it. But
yeah.
also for the Orioles, like, is that helping that much either?
I
Right?
think
You
so.
hope Oviedo's good.
You get another warm body, and your fourth outfielder right now is Daz Cameron. Would
Yeah.
you hope that G1 Bay can benefit from a change of scenery and can plug in a whole bunch of different spots and be a speed demon
Well,
on the
wouldn't your
bench?
fourth outfielder be Kjerstad?
Uh, well, Kjerstad can't really plug in center
Yeah, you're talking about that. Well, yeah, of course. And then you have Enrique Bradfield Jr. I don't know if he'd be ready.
on the way.
Yeah.
So it's not like Bay is blocking Bradfield from getting there.
I just feel like that's a trade just to make a trade
for Baltimore.
for both,
Okay. I think it's gross, but I think it could be mutually beneficial.
potentially.
But I
What's your
like your
most
sexy
sexy
one.
option?
My most sexy option is contingent on Minnesota clearing up Christian Vasquez in some way. If they move Vasquez, they need a backup catcher. Henry Davis and Mike Burrows for Trevor Larnach.
See, that's where I could get to. That's a similar trade. I had Wallner or Larnick written down to fill this outfield spot because again, both of them are pretty young and could slot in to be a part of the Pirates feature. Those are the trades I want to be making.
Larnach is a not very good, but Larnach is a fine corner outfielder. Wallner is not a fine corner outfielder. He's got a very strong arm, but he's a big clunky guy in the outfield.
Wallner's a
You
better hitter, Larnick's a better defender, but Larnick's still a fine hitter.
Larnach's still a fine hitter. I'm not prioritizing outfield defense, but you have a very bad defensive left fielder in
Yeah.
Brian Reynolds. So
And
let's
you
make
have
right okay and just task Cruz with left and center.
I think that's the way to go about it. I thought of a step further because I agree with you. I was looking at this outfield defense and I'm looking at Brian Reynolds, who were trying to move to first from a corner. That's not a good sign.
No.
O'Neal Cruz, who does have an injury history and now he's playing center in new position. Shit. So here's what I need. I need defense here. That's why I'm calling Arizona and trying to go get Alec Thomas or Jake McCarthy
Yeah.
instead of the Twins because I agree. I'd Larnick's bat is more intriguing than these guys, but
Yeah.
damn, we need someone who can go get it. And Jake McCarthy or Alec Thomas can go get it with anybody. So that's I think a better fit here. And the moves I wrote down was Keller for Kerstad, and then we go get Jake McCarthy. I wasn't exactly sure what Jake McCarthy's market would kind of look like. It's
Hmm.
not going to be crazy. I think it's actually less than for Larnick potentially because I think Larnick has a lot of upside with the bat
Yeah.
versus McCarthy. I think the Diamondbacks, and I think everybody kind of knows we're selling high here a little bit, but how high is it?
It could be a Burrows and a reliever, or Burrows and a high A, infielder.
Yeah, for McCarthy, or I think Thomas would be a little bit more expensive, so let's go get McCarthy instead.
So do you do both?
Go get Larnick, and I still want
Or no,
Kerstad.
in your world, would you go get Kerstad and McCarthy?
Yes, I think I would.
Okay.
Because I'm still worried about Reynolds long term and left. I'm
Hmm.
still holding out hope that O'Neal Cruz gives us 140 innings out or innings, 140
140
games out
games.
there, right? He hasn't proven he can stay healthy
Yeah.
too. So just because they're there on opening day doesn't make me think I'm good here in the outfield. I'd go get both because then a Kerstad eventually could play first base. And let's say Gonzalez or Nick York don't become the bats, then Horowitz might be your second baseman and Kerstad's your first baseman, or Kerstad's your left fielder and Brian Reynolds is your first baseman. That's
Yeah.
my thought here, and that's what I wrote down for the moves that we're trading for Jake McCarthy and we're trading Mitch Keller away to go get Kerstad.
Okay. So that would get Palacios effectively off the roster and
Yes.
really no chance at return for Bay or Sawinski. And that might be okay.
I think that's where we're at with them. I think Bay is like your fourth outfielder.
Maybe fifth.
I mean, can
Yeah.
anyone go watch Sawinski go play a terrible outfield and strike out 40% of the time? That's a guy who I liked. I mean, I'm watching him, I'm like, oh God. I mean, it's the at bats are so
Yeah.
I mean, it's some of the worst at bats in Major League Baseball last year.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Do I
So
want to rely on that? Absolutely not.
new look would be Bart and delay catching
With Davis and
with
Endy.
Endy right there. Then it would be McCutcheon as the DH. I think a platoon of Spencer Horwitz and Billy Cook at first base is a pretty optimized platoon. So I
Okay.
feel good about that at first base.
Yeah, for now.
Second base for now. Second base, you've got Nick Gonzalez with Nick York as the backup or the rover. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa and Leover Peguero at short. Chang at some point too, but maybe Chang's playing some second base.
Very weak shortstop, but like, what do you
Very weak. Very weak. Key Brian Hayes with Jared Triolo as his backup. I also think they have too many. Like Triolo for me is pretty expendable at
Yeah.
this point.
Unfortunately, it sounds disrespectful, but like they're quad A guys. I mean, like maybe they could fit one side of a platoon when they're hot, but
You could
when they're
also
not,
make a swap McCarthy for Triolo, that kind of thing.
I don't think the D-backs ain't doing that.
McCarthy for Triolo and a prospect.
Yeah, it would be prospect for
Sure.
McCarthy.
I don't think it has to be a great one. Triolo just won a utility gold glove.
He's pretty good.
He could play third, short, second,
Yeah,
first.
and the Diamondbacks could use someone like that.
Mm-hmm. So let's call it Triolo for, or McCarthy for, instead of Burrows and a prospect, let's call it Triolo and a prospect.
But a decent prospect, like
Decent
somewhere in the
prospect.
10 to 15 range of their system.
How about Triolo and Sung Che Cheng?
I don't know who that is, but if that sounds good to
Sung
you,
Che
that sounds
Cheng
good to me.
walks a lot. He's got some speed and he can, hit 10 to 12 homers.
Sounds cool to me.
Okay. Triolo and Sung Che Cheng for Jake McCarthy.
Sign
Done.
it in. Done.
Brian, or
Diamondbacks fans are like, no,
yeah,
no.
it
You listen to
sucks.
this, you're like, no,
Out.
we're not doing that.
So now at third base, you've got Hayes and York as his primary backup.
D-backs fans, could you just let us? Or
Yeah,
try.
just
Could you just let us?
let us do this for a
Yeah.
minute. In the outfield, Reynolds, Cruz, and Kerstad, with McCarthy as the fourth outfielder.
Yeah.
Then the starting rotation would be Skeens, Jones, Falter, Oviedo, and Burrows, while you wait for Bubba and Harrington.
Yep.
And then the bullpen, you got a couple guys?
Um, yeah, I was looking at the Pirates bullpen and I see no lefties. Tim Hill was pretty good for the Yankees last year, keeps the ball on the ground. I don't think he's going to be that expensive.
No.
I like Tim Hill.
Okay. Tim Hill, I'm in. You got another?
Um, you know,
No. If the answer is no, that's okay.
yeah, there was nobody that I liked that's going to be super, super cheap outside
Yeah.
of Tim Hill.
Yeah.
Um, maybe a flippable candidate. How's Shelby Miller's arm? He's always got some sort of surgery. Is he okay?
What about a reunion with Brent Honeywell?
Is that what Brent Honeywell wants to do?
Why would he not?
I just is Brent Honeywell going to be a flippable candidate?
I don't know.
I
Is
want because
Fujinami going to be a flippable candidate?
yeah, I like that's the type of that's where we should be operating him. I want upside. Like for example, Dylan Tate's a perfect player for this team.
So let's get Dylan Tate.
Let's get Dylan Tate and Tim Hill.
Okay. So Bednar, Holderman, Santana, Majinski, Nicholas, Wentz, Hill, and Tate. Then you've got Elvis Alvarado and Eddie Yean.
Any bullpen with Dylan Tate in it this offseason, I
You're
can
fired up about.
I'm fired up for
For
Dylan
some
Tate.
reason, you're on the Dylan Tate hype train.
I think he's still got it. He's kind of the reliever that I want everybody to grab this offseason. I just think he's going to sign for absolutely nothing, and you're going to look up and be like, wow, he's one of the better seventh inning guys in the league.
Yeah. Okay. So that's what we've got right now. The big move would be Keller for Kerstad. And you free up a lot of payroll there. So you could actually be in the market for, some decent corner outfielders if you did want to do that, or
And you know they're
decent
not
starting pitcher if you wanted to bring a guy on a 1 year deal. I
Are
also
we?
think you could use another starter on a 1 year deal actually, and then just kick him to the curb after it's done. I don't- I'm just looking at some of these names. Like a Wade Miley on a 1 year deal could be okay.
I mean, maybe Colin Ray. I know Milwaukee was kind of done with him, and you see some concerning underlying metrics, but clearly pitched well in the Central. Could be a guy that you steal a little bit from a division rival, and you see what you can get out of him. I don't
Maybe.
know. I like that.
I don't know. So that's where we're at right now. I do think a decent fallback if you don't do Keller for Kerstad is Henry Davis and Mike Burrows for Larnick.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what we got? Cool.
Exactly. I love the Twins options too, so we can go any direction there.
Perfect. All right. I think that's it for the Pirates, and it feels like we made them better, but it's not like they're contending for a division title.
It just stinks because they have a good farm system
Yeah.
and they have building blocks here that I'd love to start opening the window and really going for it, but unfortunately the writing's on the wall. It just is what it is. This team claims that they just might not be ready yet, or at least that's, actions speak louder than words, and their
Right.
actions are hitting us right in the face.
I think you got the best pitcher on the planet,
Yep,
and they're only kind of half going for it.
I know. It's kind of unfortunate, but he is only 22. You got a lot of years of ball skins under your belt, so maybe it's next year.
You got five. You got 5 more years. What can you do in the next 5 years of Paul Skeens? So only time will tell. We're going to get to the Yankees in a moment. Before that, quick break.
Playing general manager with the New York Yankees. So I wrote an article earlier in the offseason. What do the Yankees do without Juan Soto? And I brought up a bunch of different options, high end options like, of course, signing Max Fried, trading for Luis Robert, signing Pete Alonso, fixed up my plans a little bit, included Ha-Seong Kim, a lot of different moves for the Yankees in the post Juan Soto world. But they made a lot of them for me. So now we're operating with the Yankees with a different identity than they had. And I think the debate online between Yankee fans and fans of every other team, especially Mets fans, they love to interject themselves in this conversation. Are the Yankees better without Juan Soto, looking at the moves that they've done already? I think Jack and I will certainly be talking about that, but let's talk about those moves. So they signed Paul Goldschmidt to play first base, 12.5 million on a 1-year deal. They signed Max Fried, former pitcher for the Braves, big time contract, lefty, 8-year deal, $218 million. Little bit of an overpay, but I think he's a fantastic fit with the Yankees. They acquired closer Devin Williams from Milwaukee for Nestor Cortez Jr. and infield prospect Caleb Durbin. You add one of the best closers in Major League Baseball, but it took a decent package to, eventually get him. I talked about it. I think it was a little bit of an overpay, but Devin Williams makes the Yankees better today. They
Yep.
also acquired Fernando Cruz and Alex Jackson for Jose Trevino from the Reds. Jose Trevino, great backup. Garrett Cole's personal catcher at times. I think he's been a great Yankee in terms of what he's been asked to do. Won a platinum gold glove, but I think at this point it's Austin Wells' job for the
Yep.
foreseeable future. So you were able to get rid of him and you got a big time reliever. At least the stuff would tell us that, right? Baseball Savant, some of the red bubbles would tell us that. He's got one of the best pitches in Major League Baseball in that splitter, right?
Yep.
You hear Nick Kroll talk about it, and he says it's an alien type pitch. And this guy is, according to Nick Kroll, just a wonderful human being who didn't debut until very late in his career, just been a battler. So the Yankees needed some strikeouts in that bullpen, and they got one.
Yep.
Top 5 in strikeouts per 9 last year among all relievers who've thrown at least 60 innings. That's pretty awesome.
Yep.
They also acquired Cody Bellinger from the Cubs for Cody Petit. Cody Bellinger, more of a salary dump, right? I wasn't very, very excited to go get Cody Bellinger if we had to give up prospects, but the Yankees did not give up prospects. All they did was give up a reliever, but it's still expensive. And you hope that Cody Bellinger can replicate what Gleyber Torres gave them last year. Even though Gleyber 707 OPS, 15 home runs, Cody Bellinger 750 OPS, 18 home runs, and you hope that that swing translates more to Yankee Stadium. And they also re-signed Jonathan Loaizaga, $4.5 million for this year, $5 million club option for 2026.
Yeah.
So they've made a lot of moves,
Hmm.
right? But necessarily are they moves that can replicate Juan Soto? I guess I'll hand that over to you. How do you feel that the Yankees have done this season? And then I'll build off what you're saying.
If it was Christian Walker instead of Paul Goldschmidt, I would say the answer is closer to yes than it is right now. That is my gut reaction to that. I do think that the opportunity for flexibility when it came to quantity over, I said quantity over quality because nobody's quality is going to match Juan Soto, so you had to play the quantity over quality game. If they get Soto, they're not signing Fried. If they get Soto, they're not putting together all of these complementary pieces. You don't have the financial flexibility to take on a Cody Bellinger, even though Chicago kicked some money in. The money was not too huge for the Cubs because they can take on a decent bit of it. I like the flexibility. I wish they did a little bit more, like a little bit more. And I think there is an opportunity to do a little bit more. There are also some lineup sore spots that I want to throw to you. Is that fair?
More than fair.
Alex Jackson's the backup catcher. So the question is, do you feel like Rafael Flores can be there? Flores, who was awesome this year in the minor leagues, but Flores, another guy who's splitting his time between catcher and first base. Ben Rice is not catching for this team. So you have Rice, the catcher that came up last year, that is not in the fold anymore. Your quality backup catcher option at this point is a guy that was really good in Double A, but hasn't played a game in Scranton yet. Do you feel good with Flores, or do you want a backup catcher?
I mean, I want a backup catcher, but I'm looking at the available backup catchers and I'm saying, ugh, I don't want any of them, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
Maybe we can go get Hunter Fiducia from the Dodgers and make that
Yeah,
sexy
sure.
move. No, I think I agree with you. It definitely is a sore spot. I think it's Austin Wells' job. He's going to be playing most of the days,
Hmm.
and I think you're either trying Alex Jackson or dipping into some of your minor league talent here.
Yeah.
I think I just don't think this is where the money is going to be spent. I think they got Alex Jackson kind of for a reason, unless they immediately DFA him. But I think they're going to give him a little bit of run and see if this is the landing spot that can unlock something, even though he strikes out every single at bat. But
Interesting.
potentially he's something with the Yankees, right? The Yankees have gotten a lot of horrible players at times and
Yeah.
turned them into okay enough to be a backup catcher. I think that's what they're hoping for with Jackson.
Yeah. Is there a third baseman in Major League Baseball that you want on the Yankees that is not going to cost much more than Marcus Stroman?
No.
That's the problem. So
Yeah, and
I
here,
look
here's
at
here's my
this
big
line.
here's my big problem with the Yankees here too. Because you see the debates of are the Yankees better with Juan Soto or without him with this current roster. It's like they could have been better,
Yeah.
but I'm looking at a lineup now that it's just underwhelming because there's a reason Soto got paid $765 million.
Yeah.
He is one of the best hitters we have ever seen. So when you're taking him out of the lineup, not only are you taking out 40 plus home runs, not only are you taking out a 180 WRC plus, not only are you taking out, a guy who sets the tone in the batter's box every single game, and then while also providing some protection for Aaron Judge, because now, of course, Aaron Judge, I know he doesn't slot right in behind him, but you got to pitch to one of them, right? At some point when you're facing the Yankees. Now, there's no reason to pitch to Aaron Judge at all. So could Aaron Judge go through more lulls where he's trying to overcompensate? We've seen this from Judge where there's a lot more swing and miss. He's going lower in the zone. He's trying to get that low strike call because they keep calling it on him, even though he's 6'7" and he can't get to it. But that's more of me just complaining. But that's the reality of the situation. So you remove Juan Soto from this lineup, which I think is going to hurt Aaron Judge a little bit. And of course, it hurts the rest of the lineup. And then what do? Right? You replicate that with Paul Goldschmidt and Cody Bellinger.
Yeah.
It's not enough because you also lost Gleyber Torres. It's not just losing Juan Soto. So when I look at this Yankees lineup, I say, okay, it could be decent,
Yeah.
could be decent, and there are not a lot of options for the Yankees to make, whether that be signing free agents or trading. So my plan is here for the Yankees fully dive in, become pitching centric, go all in on the bullpen, right? They have, a slew of starters. Of course, you can go top to bottom with Cole, Fried, Rodon, Heel, Schmidt, and Stroman.
Yeah.
That's your starting rotation. And then we're adding a ton to the bullpen here, and we're making one more acquisition offensively that will make them better, preferably in the speed category and in the defense category. So let's go over just some stats again. Because the Yankees were third in OPS. They were first in home runs. They had tons of power, but they were 24th in stolen bases. And when you watch the Yankees, they're the worst base running team I've ever seen. Starting
Hmm.
pitching was great. Bullpen is good, but we forget too that this bullpen lost Tommy Kahnle, Tim Hill, and Clay Holmes. Right? They've added Devin Williams. They've added Fernando Cruz, but you need to add more because you look at the bottom and it's JT Brubaker,
Yep.
right? It's Mark Leiter Jr. And you hope Jake Cousins can replicate what he did last year, but you never know.
Yep.
So the Yankees, I think, need to make some big moves in the bullpen and sign one more offensive piece. So to answer the question, are the Yankees better without Juan Soto now? The lineup is definitely worse.
Hmm.
I think considerably worse.
Yeah.
But of course, it allowed you to sign Max Fried. So, based on that, let's just dive straight into pitching because I think the plan is we're not going to lock into a long-term option at first base because maybe they're in the market for Vladdy when he becomes a free agent next year, and we're
Yeah.
not going to lock into a long-term option in the outfield because Kyle Tucker's a free agent next year. And I'm not saying they signed both of them, but I think that's what their plan is.
Can I pitch you on a possible fix? And I think you're going to scoff initially. Key Brian Hayes could help out the Yankees. I do think
I
because
I can't
no.
take that right-handed bat who can't hit. I can't do
Okay.
it.
You can't take a platinum glove level defender at third base and have Jazz just commit to second full time.
I'd
He's
rather
8 million
sign
a year.
I'd rather sign Ha-Seong Kim.
You'd rather sign Kim than take on Hayes.
Yeah,
Fair.
I'd rather sign Kim because it's not going to be that much money,
Yeah.
and you keep Jazz at third base. He was -2 defensive runs saved over there at third, but I think we can both agree he looked better. He's also
Yeah, I
learning a
think
new
so. Well,
position.
and he was also learning a brand new position.
Exactly. So
So
I think that's what they should do. I think you're creating an up the middle with Volpe and Kim.
that's going to be really good.
That's as good defensively as any up the middle combo in Major League Baseball.
That isn't Bellinger and Swanson, or that isn't a Horner and Swanson.
Exactly. So you add that speed element that Ha-Seong Kim brings, can steal 30 to 40 bases in a season, doesn't strike out at all, walks a ton. I like that bat profile at the top of the Yankees lineup, and I love the defense at second base.
Hmm.
So that's I'd rather sign him than trade for Brian Hayes.
Okay, got it. So you signed Kim. Offense is complete at that point.
But I mean, like I don't think that the Yankees should go get Alex Bregman. Like I understand that
No,
that's
I
the
don't. I don't think they're even in the conversation for Bregman.
I don't think they should be. I think that he's a guy at his age that I don't want to be paying 25 to 30 million dollars for over 7 years. I We're obviously out on Pete Alonso by signing Paul Goldschmidt. You go to the trade market and you could go trade for Nico Horner, but I'd rather just sign Ha-Seong Kim. I think he's a good player,
Hmm.
right? He's a 3-win, then a 4-win, then close to a 3-win season. Has a little bit of power. I think he's the perfect replacement there at second base. Of course, you could bring back Glaber, but I think that that relationship
Feels like
has
the ship has
soured.
sailed.
I think it has
Yeah.
sailed too. So I think Kim is the only option here, making this lineup better. Of course, I want to call up the Cardinals and see what we can give you for Brendan Donovan. But the more I look into that, the more I just think that the Cardinals don't want to trade him. And for good reason, the Cardinals shouldn't trade him. He's 27 years old. He's got
Yeah.
multiple years of control left. He's a really good player, can play a
What?
bunch of different positions.
And
And
again,
they
you.
already had a conversation with the Mariners, and the Cardinals basically shut them down.
Yeah.
So,
And again, you have this financial flexibility without Soto on your book to the point where you can sign a free agent like a Ha-Sung Kim, and you could pay
yeah,
him $13 million a year.
yeah, I think that's the way they go here. I think that
Okay.
makes them better defensively. It makes them much better on the base pass. And he's a fine hitter. He's going to
Yeah.
be a slightly above average hitter in terms of WRC plus, anywhere from 100 to 115. That's a good player. He makes
So
the
you
Yankees better.
you sign Kim. You don't have the best offense in baseball like you did
No.
last year, but you also don't have Ruth and Garrick like you did last year. So
So now you
you
buy
you
totally into starting pitching and bullpen and become the best pitching unit in Major League
well,
Baseball.
and dude, it's not like you're the 18th best lineup in Major League Baseball if you add a Kim. I'm
Yeah.
looking at
They're going to be a
Wells,
top 10
Ketchum.
lineup, probably.
Yeah, dude. I
Bordering on
think if
10.
you're
Like,
seventh or eighth in team OPS, Yankees could be very good with that.
yeah. I think if they fully buy into the bullpen here and make some of the moves that I'm going to speak about, I
Yeah.
think this team goes back to the World Series. Now, it's another conversation. Are they able to beat the Dodgers or the Mets or the Braves or the Phillies or, maybe a team from the Central surprises or even the Padres or the Diamondbacks? Still think the Diamondbacks are going to be nasty. Will they beat them? I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably not. But you never know in a 7-game series. I'll be able to convince myself that they can go beat the Dodgers,
Hmm.
whether I'll be right or not. I'll again be sad, but I can still do it with a team like this.
Yeah.
So no, I don't really want to go get a backup catcher, but I'll sign Ha-Seong Kim, which creates a lineup of Volpe at short, Jazz at third, Judge in right, Goldschmidt at first, Bellinger in center, Stanton at DH, Wells at catcher, Dominguez in left, and Jazz at third. Oh, and
Cool.
Ha-Seong Kim at second.
Cool.
It's pretty good lineup,
I think so.
kind of. Thing is, I wonder what the Yankees are going to do next year with DJ LeMahieu. I wonder where he's going to play.
I think he's going to be a bench bat. I think he's going to be the most expensive bench bat in baseball.
He's probably going to be a short side of the platoon with Jazz at third against
Sure.
lefties.
Okay.
Whatever. The
Fine.
Yankees offense just isn't going to be that good. And yeah, there are moves that I want to make. They're just not going to make them. They've already showed their hand. The Yankees like making these Alex Verdugo adjacent moves. It makes Brian Cashman feel good that when he puts a trade into the trade simulator, he won it. But we're not better. They're not better. They are fine enough to keep competing.
Right.
Which is more annoying than anything.
Right. But what are you doing to the bullpen?
So I think we should be the team to sign Tanner Scott. I think we go full-fledged into this. When I look at the Yankees bullpen, who's the lefty? They don't have one. It was Tim Hill. They don't have one.
Yeah.
So to get a lockdown left-handed reliever like that for your battles with Rafael Devers, with your battles with, plenty of great hitters in the American League East, and then when you go to the World Series, you have a guy who could potentially get out of Shohei Ohtani. You have a guy who can get out of Francisco Lindor. You have a guy that can get out of Bryce Harper. And Devin Williams, of course, he's thrown 2 innings in the playoffs, and he has a 23 ERA, and he has a one-punched wall on his resume.
Yeah.
I think that the Yankees still have money to spend. Go get, and I'm not a big fan of these big-time reliever budgets. I'm not. But there are a few teams that it makes sense to do so. I think the Yankees are one of them. And also, I'm not going to give a reliever deal unless I truly believe in the guy. So if this goes to bite the Yankees in the ass and the Yankees actually do this, egg on my face. I would have agreed with Brian Cashman on this one. I think Tanner Scott is a stud. I think he could be one of the best relievers in baseball. He's been one of the best relievers in baseball over the last 2 years. 70-plus innings in both years. Pitching to a low 2s, high 1s. Heavy strikeout stuff. 99-mile-an-hour BBs from the left side. Big legs. Oh, it's like that Stephen A. Smith meme. You're getting me salivating over here.
Yeah.
I'm salivating over Tanner Scott. I think Tanner Scott is worth it. Give him 4 years. I don't care. We got to buy into the bullpen here. And then again, let's sign A.J. Minter. So I think the Yankees sign Tanner Scott and they sign A.J. Minter. And you know what? Fuck it. They're not actually going to do this. And maybe this is complete overkill. Let's also trade for Ryan Helsley.
That is complete overkill.
It's complete overkill because so we'd be bumping out Brubaker, Mark Leiter Jr., and one of Cousins, Cruz, or Ian Hamilton.
I don't think you should be bumping out Mark Leiter. I think Mark Leiter should be here. There are a couple other names that I want to mention to you.
Of course, we also have Loizaga too. So, yeah, that is major overkill, and maybe it's not Minter, maybe it's going to get Helsley. I just want to, if the Yankees are going to clearly
you want to add two very good ones.
Yes, differentiate yourself by having the best unit on the field, and that would be the Yankees bullpen if they were able to.
I get it. So you can pony up for Tanner Scott. All right, say you do that. So you add him, you sign Ha-Seong Kim as well. That Soto money is effectively allocated elsewhere once you sign Scott and Kim. So I see 2 relief arms on the trade market that you could move your blocked outfield prospect for. Everson Pereira is coming off of an internal brace procedure. I wasn't sure if it was complete Tommy John or an internal brace, but there is 0 route to playing time for Everson Pereira. It doesn't exist anymore. So Pereira could be used on 2 NL Central teams. One of them's the team we just talked about. Would you do Pereira for Colin Holderman? I think you would. Holderman's 99.
I would definitely do that. We need lefties.
Okay, so...
And if we're going to trade for a right-handed reliever, I want it to be Helsley.
Yeah. So, you know who has 0 outfield depth? The St. Louis Cardinals. They could use Everson Pereira. Everson Pereira for Jojo Romero, who has one of the best sliders in any bullpen in Major League Baseball. Opponents hit 099 against his slider. He's a sinker slider guy. They slugged 235 against the pitch. He threw it 312 times. He's got a changeup as well. Wasn't very good. The sinker is fine, but the slider is his bread and butter. If you can find one more tick, and Matt Blake is very good at finding sinkers that are just working or optimizing a reliever with a two pitch mix. If they get their hands on Jojo Romero, I think he can turn into an absolute dog. So my official pitch is not Holderman. It's Everson Pereira for Jojo Romero.
Yeah, I would. You could send that in a heartbeat. That's the type of move I would want to make. We just need lefties. Need
Okay.
lefties. I mean, you just look at a bullpen and it's completely right-handed, and you're going to
Yeah.
face plenty of great left-handed hitters. So I think it's sign Tanner Scott, and maybe you could trade for Jojo Romero instead of signing Minter. It's just Minter's so right there, and I still think he's going to end up being a Brave. But the
Yeah.
Braves
So
have done absolutely nothing, and the fact that
yeah.
he's still out there means that maybe that relationship is done.
So I don't know. I feel like we as a baseball community read way too far into Atlanta not extending people. Oh, like
I knew that.
relationship is soured. I know. Freed, oh, they didn't extend him. He's gone. Freddie, they didn't extend him. He's gone. Dansby, they didn't extend him. He's gone. Yeah, because they
Right?
were going to cost a lot of money, and they felt like there were better options out there. And frankly, they found him.
But
So
didn't they find their mentor in Dylan Lee and Aaron Bummer already? And that's why they're
yeah, but I
fine
think
letting
they
him
can bring
go?
Minter back for $2.5 million, and I
We'll give
do
him
think that
three.
they're going to do that.
We'll give him three.
Sure, yeah, no, $500,000 is going to make him go from Atlanta to New York.
I'll pitch in.
Sure. No, man, I do think Jojo Romero is the other good grab aside from Scott. So we sign Scott and Kim. We trade Everson Pereira for Jojo Romero.
Do you think do you think that we should be adding more? I think but it's not a question of do the Yankees need more. It's a question of how do we make the Yankees on par with some of these great teams in the National League?
I think they're a great team if you do those three things.
Yeah,
You have a bullpen trio of Weaver, Devin, and Scott.
I know. And Loizaga when he comes back. And then you'd have Jojo Romero too.
Yeah, but you're playing with house money with Loizaga.
I know.
He may suck, but that's okay. So you have that bullpen trio. That's a nightmare, and that's up there with any bullpen trio in Major League Baseball. You have a front two of Cole and Freed, and that's gross. And Rodon still exists, and Schmidt still exists, and Heel still exists.
It's a pretty good
Come
team.
on, man.
I know. I know. I guess um yeah, it's to be perfectly honest with you, and I don't know why Yankee fans, I guess, online they want to pretend like it's totally okay. It's not okay to me. Looking at this team without Juan Soto, just staring at the lineup and I know this is
Okay,
a
but
pointless exercise. I just want to put it out in the ether that I miss Juan Soto and that
okay,
I
okay.
like I just
So,
miss him.
and I don't really feel bad for you because this
I
is
know you
still a
don't.
top
Nobody
five team in
should.
baseball.
Nobody should at all.
No,
I'm just saying it for the 8 people who may care.
I understand. So the new look New York Yankees after we just made these moves. Catching situation is Austin Wells with Alex Jackson and then Rafael Flores there. First base is Paul Goldschmidt and DJ LeMahieu. Second base is Ha-Sung Kim and Oswaldo.
Yeah. Or no,
Shortstop
it'd
is
be
Anthony
Oswald Peraza. But yeah, sure.
Peraza.
Oswald
Yeah.
de Cabrera too.
So yeah. Shortstop is Anthony Volpe. Third base is Jazz Chisholm and Cabrera, probably, or
Yeah.
Peraza.
Yeah.
The outfield situation
And DJ.
is Dominguez in left, Bellinger in center, Judge in right, and Grisham is the fourth outfielder.
Yep.
Giancarlo's the DH. Your bench, Alex Jackson, then Rafael Flores, LeMahieu, Peraza, Trent Grisham.
And
The
Oswald de
rotation,
Cabrera.
yeah, Oswaldo Cabrera.
Yeah.
The rotation, Cole, Freed, Rodon, Heel, Schmidt,
Yep.
Stroman is your six if you go six deep.
Yep.
And then the bullpen would be Devin, Tanner Scott, Luke Weaver, Fernando Cruz, Mark Leiter, Jojo Romero, Ian Hamilton,
And Jay Cousins.
and Jay Cousins. That's really good. That's a top 5 team in baseball. Quit your whining.
We don't have Juan Soto.
Quit your whining.
You're right. No, and that's why I was excited to get back into the Yankees now
Yeah.
because all right, they made their bed with this offense.
Yeah.
Do I love the moves? No. If they sign Ha-Seong Kim, I can look at this offense and say, all right, you're not as good as last year, but the pitching is better. And if they buy fully into we are creating a mega bullpen with this starting rotation and we're going to beat a lot of teams 3-2, I'm with that because they have the talent in order to do that. And when you get to the postseason and you can run out this many elite arms,
Yeah.
you got a shot against anybody.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the offense is going to be lamer to watch, but the team has the opportunity to be better. And this team is coming off a World Series appearance.
I am fascinated to see a clean shaven Paul Goldschmidt.
Yeah, he's gonna
Are
be
you
he's
not?
gonna he's gonna be the baldest man. I mean, he's gonna look like Brett Gardner. I mean, he's gonna. That's the thing with Christian Walker too. I was seeing some of those bearded list pictures of Christian Walker. I was like, I mean, any bald guy with a beard is just Brett Gardner on our team. We're walking around with a bunch of alien dudes. Just
Look at that head.
yeah, it's so funny the Yankees beard thing. Like even when I worked there in sales, I mean, even dating back to when I was a 19-year-old intern, had to have clean shaven. I I I understand why they do it. It's tradition. It's from it's from George, but
Yeah, the house that George built.
yeah, but it's a stupid rule, obviously. But whatever.
Whatever.
Yeah,
That's what we got.
that's what we got. So hopefully everybody enjoyed this edition of Playing General Manager for the New York Yankees and the Pittsburgh Pirates, and even a little movie talk. We're channeling our inner Bill Simmons. He's a big movie guy, I think.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
huge movie guy.
He
So
does the rewatchables.
yeah, this was kind of a Bill Simmons-esque pod. Hopefully everybody enjoyed. If you wouldn't mind rating and reviewing on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever you listen, best way to support, as well as hitting that subscribe button on YouTube, getting yourself some Just Baseball merch. Hopefully everybody had a wonderful Christmas. We'll see you again on Monday. For Jack McMullen, I am Peter Apple. And with that, thank you, everybody.